Everybody, welcome back to the Divergent Comics YouTube channel. Again, I'm Gary. I would say back with another comic creator interview, but that is not what we're doing today. We're actually doing an author review interview. Something new, something I want to dabble into a little bit this year. I met Amanda on Threads, saw that she had published a book, and I was like, interesting, a superhero novel. That might be up my alley. I got the book, read through it, and it's pretty good, actually. So I wanted to get her on the channel and just kind of talk about that and hopefully get you all to read it. So Amanda, welcome to the YouTube channel and tell everyone about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Amanda. I am a coming-of-age superhero novel author. I just graduated college a year ago, and I'm trying to make the whole author thing work and go into grad school soon, and super excited to be here, super excited to be on your channel.
Sweet. So, I think that was one of the things that you mentioned when you were promoting your book initially, was that you had just recently graduated from college. So, you graduated with a creative writing degree, correct?
Yes, I did. I graduated in 3 years.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What made you want to go down the path of getting a creative writing degree?
Well, I've always loved being creative, but I'm not overly artistic. Brain has great visions, hands do not cooperate. So I was like, what can I do instead? And I was like, well, writing sounds kind of cool. I'd been writing for about 6 years prior to going to college, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. Seemed like my calling, seemed like the thing I was definitely best at. So I think I made a good decision.
Nice. I would definitely agree with you on that.
Thank you.
So when you said you were writing for about 6 years before that, were you always kind of doodling and writing superhero stuff, or was it just dabbling in all types of genres?
It's changed over the years. I tend to focus on magical realism and fantasy and fiction more so. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always superheroes though, no.
Okay, sweet. Well, your book you released this year, Program 38 Sparks.
Correct.
Really good book. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting kind of coming of age type of story. Can you give us a log line for that story?
Basically, I would describe it as a coming-of-age story about 4 college students who are struggling both simultaneously to pass their classes while fighting supervillains.
I like that. That is good, actually. That is a really good way of breaking it down. Where did that story come from? How did you come up with that?
So it's actually kind of funny because I had a classmate that I went to college with named Alex, who I wanted to read my writing because I'd just become friends with him, and he was like, I don't read anything other than comic books. I don't read anything other than superhero books. So he challenged me over dinner one night to write this book, and I was like, I'm a Marvel fan, but I don't know that much about superheroes, but I was also in the middle of going to college, and I was like, well, I could write about college, and then maybe throw some superhero things in, and it started a 7-book thing that I love and adore now. Program 38 is a huge part of my life, and I'm so glad he challenged me to it, to be honest. It was it changed my life, and I have to thank him for that.
Yeah, I think at the beginning when you have your forward for the story, he's the one that's mentioned for inspiring the story, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah. Really get more of a background of how that came about. So kind of diving into the story a little bit, the character Kelsey, she's really the one that we get the main story point of view from.
That's right.
Where did her character come from?
So Kelsey comes from a lot of my own struggles with interpersonal relationships, with self-confidence, with dealing with trauma and anxiety from high school, just a lot of my own personal experiences, and realizing that in life we aren't perfect, and that while we're the main characters of our own stories, we could be the villains in other people's stories. I like to describe Kelsey as wonderfully flawed because she is beautifully messed up in her own ways, but everyone around her can kind of see that she's struggling. And she's like very tone deaf to herself in a way. And I was very much like that when I wrote the book. Because I was just like, I'm a terrible person. I'm a bad person. And everyone around me was like, no, you're not. What are you talking about? So it very much came from my own personal experiences. And then learning as college went on. And even now to this day, what it means to feel like a good person. And what it means to just embrace that. And I feel like Kelsey's arc perfectly encapsulated that in what I went through. So when people are like, is Kelsey a self-insert character? I'm like, well, kind of. The mean reviews love to point that out, but that's the point. If you missed the point of the book, if you think that way, I think.
That's very fair. And, I think a lot of times people read stories from authors and think, oh, this main character is a self-insert character. And many times it is, but often it's not. It's more of a, okay, I can pull creatively from different people in my life and craft this character that, like you said, is wonderfully flawed. Because as I was reading the story, Kelsey drew me in, but she gave me so much anxiety.
Yes.
I actually started reading. I went to Chicago for C2E2 comic. Are you familiar with C2E2?
No, I assumed it was comic book related though.
Yeah, it's a Comic-Con in Chicago. It's called what is it? Comic. I'll have it in the description below for everyone who is interested. But it's a Comic-Con in Chicago. It's really huge, really big. So I was flying up there, and I had the book, and I was reading the book. And I was like, this is the worst time to read this book because not only am I flying, which is giving me some anxiety, I have a character that is giving me a bunch of anxiety just because of the fact that every time something happens, she either flips out or she closes in, which makes it even worse because that's what I do whenever I'm going through something stressful. I usually close in. And I was just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be reading this on a flight. But I did read it while I was at the hotel and everything, which was fun. But yeah, I very much identified with Kelsey in many instances, many moments throughout the book. Mm-hmm. I know this is probably hard to ask because when you're creative, you kind of love everything about your story. But who are some of your favorite characters from Program 38 that you've written?
Yeah. From this book, it's definitely Jay. Jay has always been a massive favorite of mine. He's one of the more important characters throughout the series as well, so you're going to see him pop up everywhere. If you don't like Jay, don't keep going with the book. The book changes narrators every time, so if you don't like Kelsey, at least you won't be dealing with her overwhelming anxiety next book as much, but, Jay's a big one. I also really like Nicole, too. And why it's just fun to write for, I guess, his turnaround in the middle of the book. Ironically, Kelsey's my least favorite character, but that might say more about me than it does in the character.
That is funny. No, I like Jay. At first, when he's first introduced, I didn't like him because he was a dick.
Yeah, true.
But he definitely grows on you, especially as you get closer towards the middle part of the book. Yeah. I think his character really grows a lot more. So I definitely enjoyed that aspect of his character. And I enjoy him as a character overall. So one of the interesting things I found about this story, and I'm really going to focus on Kelsey because she's kind of like the main point of view for the story.
Makes sense.
But with Kelsey, we initially meet her, and she has a very, I would say, traumatic life up to the point when we meet her. She's been bullied in school and bullied at home. She's basically left alone most of her life because of the monster within, or the beast within is what she calls it. And you don't really get to understand or see how that kind of comes into play until she goes off to college and interacts with some of the other students in the program.
Right.
With that, when you were crafting that backstory for Kelsey, how difficult was it to go through the process of putting her through the most trauma that you could put someone through?
A lot of it is just pulling from personal experiences and just things that I've seen out there. I mean, I was bullied horrendously in high school to the point where it wasn't even bullying anymore. It was just no one would talk to me ever. So I definitely knew that one from personal experience. And as far as being abandoned by your entire family, that's not my personal experience, but I had a very close friend who basically just doesn't have a family. So
Oh, wow.
I drew from a lot of personal experiences from those around me when I wrote Kelsey's story. I mean, she does have a very traumatizing story, but the whole story is about overcoming your demons and triumph, I feel. So it needed to kind of come from this place of deep, dark resignation and resignation of just feeling like you're the worst thing in the world and it being manifested through these powers, I feel was probably the best way to do it, because it's both very real, and also the powers serve as a metaphor for the inner demon rather than it just being so straightforward.
That is a really good metaphor, honestly, and I like that. Like I said, I've resonated with Kelsey a lot in so many ways. One more question about the book, and I want to move a little bit forward with some other questions I have.
Of course.
What was the... I guess it's probably going to be tough to answer because it's not a long book. It's over 200 pages, but it is a pretty beefy book. But what was the toughest section of the book for you to write?
Oh, the answer to this question changes. So there's technically two answers to this, depending on how you want to look at it. The first answer is the scene with Kelsey and Wyatt, and the scenes at the end with Kelsey talking to Jay and fighting off that last boss were really hard because they were both about introspection and Kelsey reflecting on herself. And I felt like I was trying to work through a lot of my own issues while doing this as well. Where, like, I was like, at this point in time, I was like, wow, I could solve this problem for Kelsey, but, you know, I'm still struggling with it. Because, unfortunately, I'm a real person, and I can't have an author just magically fix my problems. The second answer is actually the scene with Wyatt on the spiderweb, because it actually happened at a point in time where I had gotten into a pretty significant fight with one of the people that inspired the book in the first place.
Oh, wow.
So every time I went back and rewrote Wyatt's Web of Lies, I just sort of made it a little more over the top. Like, that's it's such a tone shift, because like every time I got mad at this person, I would just go back in again and just amp it up a bit. So I wrote it like 5 times, and basically everyone who's read the book gets to chapter 8. It's just like, okay, what just happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, hard for a different reason, but I feel like it's the moment for this book where it's like it goes from being calm and chill and like, oh, this isn't gonna go bad, to just, oh shit.
Yeah.
One chapter, just.
It is straight balls to the walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely agree. So, and that's actually one of the things I actually enjoy about it, because oftentimes I think too many writers, and definitely correct me if you disagree, but I think too many writers try to stick with one specific pace and stay in one lane and don't want to try to shake up any when they're writing a story because they feel like it's going to cause too much of a problem, or they feel like it's going to lose the reader. But I think occasionally if you throw that in, when it fits, of course, for certain characters, then I think it works really well.
I agree with you for the most part. Some of the later books, especially the next one, are extremely fast-paced because Wyatt, as we just described him, is a very balls-to-the-walls character, and the next book is very much surrounding him. So this book and the series itself does, like, change in pace a lot, and I do like that because, like, Book 4 especially, it's supposed to feel like the calm before the storm, and then slam. The storm is here and it's horrible. So I definitely understand, like, the pacing thing. And, like, keeping a steady pace is nice for books like Book 2, where it's Vanessa and Emily dealing with Wyatt, instead of, like, Book 4, where it's like, oh, you want that anticipation and that build-up, because you know something is coming, you just don't know when the hat's gonna drop, and it's fun to mess with the reader that way.
Yes, I agree. I definitely agree. So, something that's been on my mind ever since I read the book, when you mentioned that you're a fan of Marvel, and I definitely see a lot of your comments and stuff on threads about different things that you enjoy, and the fact that you wrote a superhero novel definitely speaks to the fact that you have some affinity for superheroes in general.
Yeah.
So my question is, what was the idea or the mindset behind making this a novel rather than making it a comic or graphic novel?
Well, for one, I am totally against generative AI. So I realized as I was writing this early on that I just didn't have it in my wheelhouse or the money at that point in time to really go out of my way to hire a human artist, which was the only way I felt comfortable making it a comic book or a graphic novel. So I was like, I write books. I had written 6 or 7 books that I haven't released before I got to college, and I'm like, well, this is what I'm good at, so I might as well release it this way, and if it does well, maybe I'll become the innovator of a new genre. I've seen a couple other people try it too, about the same amount of success I've gotten, but I wanted to be the one that really pushed it forward into a new medium. And even though it's a very visual medium, I feel like it could be done really well by a good author with words. So that's what I'm aiming to do. And now I do have money to get artists, and I do it sometimes. Just the covers for the books cost a lot of money because I don't know if you've seen the comments about this particular aspect, but the cover for the book, I have it right here actually, was done by Gus Malk, who's a Marvel cover artist. So that's what most of the money goes into for the book, besides the editing actually, is the cover's up there. And I love supporting human artists. It's just what I do. Like, I was like, I could do AI-generated garbage, but, like, it loses its soul then. I would rather sell less copies and know that every part of this book was, like, human done than, you know, sell more because it's visual and then it be fake.
That is true, yeah. I agree with you on that. And I like that because I think most people who enjoy superheroes or who enjoy superhero movies, things like that, they immediately go, I want to make a comic book. And it is expensive. As someone who works on making my own comics, I can fully attest that it is very expensive to make comics. So going the route of doing a novel is equally expensive because you have to pay for the editing. You also have to pay for the cover artist. There's a lot of things that go into making the books themselves. So definitely good on you for doing that. I'm really intrigued to see how far this goes, and hopefully you can reach your goal and push the genre forward in novel form, because I think that would be pretty cool to see, you know, people who think, well, I don't know how to write comic scripts and I can't draw, or I don't know artists, so I'm just not going to write my story. Well, there's going to be examples in place for why those people can write their stories.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you have other books planned out for this series. How many books do you have planned, and can you give us any insight in regards to what's next for Program 38?
Yes, I definitely will. So the book series technically has 7 books written for it in at least first draft form.
Okay.
The first 4 books are about this particular Program 38 team and what they go through, and you've read the book, so I will be a little more forthright with this. The first 4 books follow the prophecy of the Battle of the Birds and like how that's going to manifest and how that's going to come out, with obviously the 4th book being that big battle. Books 5 through 7 are more shoot-offs of what 2 of the characters that survived that event end up doing. One of them ends up opening a little tourist trap shop and recruiting their own team of superheroes. That's books 6 and 7. And then book 5 is following Program 38, which eventually gets turned into a group known as the Phoenix Guard, and what the legacy of Program 38 is afterwards. But as far as the first 4 books are concerned, the second book looks like it's coming out during the summer. It's called Program 38 Truths, and it follows Vanessa, who is the newest character to join the team after Wyatt's departure, and she feels like she's very much in his shadow. And also, for reasons no one knows, Wyatt Sterling has just straight up disappeared. So now they've got to find him, because a lot of people are looking for him, and half of those people want him dead, so, you know, they gotta find him before those people try to kill him first. Or, you know, maybe they'll kill him once they find out what he did. So this second story is really about Wyatt's, I would say, transformation, and after what happened with him getting electrocuted on the spiderweb, and after his falling out with the Program 38 group, just seeing what becomes of him, and seeing if he ends up rising to the challenge of being the true hero he claims he is, or if the madness gets to him a little too much, and he starts his downward descent into something different.
Oh, that's exciting. I can't wait for that to come out. Do you have a tentative date for that, or is it still kind of in the air?
Yeah, it's still kind of up in the air. I don't want to put out a date and, like, make any false promises, but I think
That's
the
fair.
latest it'll come out is, like, September. I think it's going to be much earlier than that. I mean, we're
Okay.
going through second stage of proofreading editing, then we have to send it over to the interior formatter, and then after that we're essentially done. And then I'm gonna throw a little fancy video up releasing the date, and then I'm gonna, like, aggressively tell people to buy it on Threads for the next 2 years, so...
Nice. I like it.
Sorry I don't have a better answer at this moment. I just want to make sure that I don't say, like, it's August 12th, and then, you know, August 13th rolls around, and they're like, but you said in the video. I'm like,
Right.
oh, yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can live with that. And as soon as you release the video about when it's actually going to drop, I will definitely be sharing it.
Thank you.
So everyone be on the lookout for that. Off-topic question.
Sure.
You said that you're a Marvel fan. Have you watched any DC-related TV shows or movies?
I did watch most of the DCU, actually. Like, before James Gunn decided to reboot it with, like... why is it when someone asks me a question, I never remember what I want to answer with? I watched the Ben Affleck universe with him playing Superman. Batman. Wow. Okay. I work in a movie theater. I should know this. Yeah. So I watched, my favorite movie from that series is the Justice League, and I liked the Flash a lot before I found out Ezra Miller wasn't the greatest person. So that was fun, and I do really like those movies. I liked the first Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. It's Gal Gadot. Yeah, that's her name. I really liked that one. I'm excited to see Superman when it drops, but I'm not as big into following them. I also saw Aquaman. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the older DC movies. I know there's like a ton of Supermans and a ton of Batmans.
Yeah. Only reason why I mention it, the Program 38, the way that you're explaining it, and the more I kind of like understand your mindset behind it, it's given me a lot of Young Justice, which is an animated TV series based on DC Comics characters. It's on Max. I think if you ever wanted to check out some other really good DC content, that would be something that would be pretty fun to watch. It has 4 seasons. Each season's like maybe 20 episodes or so. But I think it's pretty fun, and I think you would enjoy it, and I think it will give you a little bit more inspiration for your stories as well, which would be cool to see. Speaking of TV and movie, though, would you ever want to see your story adapted onto a TV or a movie screen? And if so, which one would you rather see it on?
Absolutely. I mean, the movie theater employee in me is shouting movies, but I think that Program 38 would best be done in a television series format or a limited series format, just because I think there's so much story to tell with that universe, and, like, there's areas of even book 1 that could have been expanded upon. Like, especially if it wasn't stuck in Kelsey's perspective. Like, I'd love to see Wyatt's initial reaction to everything that happened to him, and then watching him slowly go down, even from book 1, would just be a lot of fun. And also just having the ability to have all the different perspectives. And just more stuff about the college in general, because Sherman is a very interesting place, and it gets so overrun with, like, the superhero aspect of it, and you don't want to devote, that's the word I was looking for, sorry. Devote too much time to the plot, you know, with the school, when you could be doing stuff with the superheroes. But if you have, like, a television series for that, then you could have a little bit more time, because, like, Sherman has a ton of interesting teachers that aren't, like, overly mentioned in the book. like the calculus teacher actually has some interesting stuff going on, but she never gets brought up besides the 1 or 2 chapters she's in. Professor Fallon does a lot too, despite being the cranky old journalism professor nobody likes. Dr. So, especially, he's very, very important. He's in the series a little more. And then there's the advisor, like, we know almost nothing about the advisor to the program, or if, you know, maybe it's Jay for all we know. That's something else Book 2 will finally answer. So, like, I would just like to see, like, Sherman itself get explored more, and I feel like a TV series would be perfect for that.
So, for those of you watching, the reason I shot my hands up immediately as she said that, as I was preparing for this interview, I was talking with one of my with my manager at work about this interview. It's like, yeah, I'm about to interview this author. I'm really excited because I really enjoyed the book. And that was one of the questions he asked. It's like, well, you read the book. What do you think would be better for an adaptation of it? And I was like, I could see it as a movie, but I think this book would be perfect as a TV series because of the reasons that you said. The characters in this story are so intricate. They're so interesting, but the world around it deserves to be explored more. And because of that, TV series would be perfect. I could see maybe 5 to 10 seasons of this book being, 5 to 10 seasons of this book series being made, and it being a really in-depth, really well explored type of series. So I'm glad that we're on the same page with that.
To add to that, there's also 9 other schools in the 30s programs, only I would say 2 of which actually get actively explored, and all of those schools have lore. Like, on the Instagram, they all have, like, their own individual, like, pages you could swipe through about, like, their basic lore, but they have a lot of stuff going on with them. And, like, I would love to do more with that. I've thought about doing, like, spin-off novels if the series does well, but, it's gotta do well for it to warrant all of those spin-off materials. But there's also the other schools, and I always sit there and I'm like, but Winterwood University usually only lets in legacies to their program 33, and, like, no one would know that, because unless you, like, go through the allegiances in the next book and look at the names, you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, so it's just little things like that, and I just sit there and I'm like, oh man, like program 32 has an illegal underground casino in which the advisor is secretly gambling away powers to people and is tricking them into losing their powers because she's a mind reader and can always win the games. But, like, you wouldn't know this unless you walked up to me and asked me about it, and that just makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the tough part about being a writer in general, because it's like there's so much depth, so much beef to what you are crafting, and you have to pick and choose what's going to be relevant and what's going to be put into the story. And then unless you are in a situation where, like, I guess I'm currently in my Hunger Games kick, so unless you're, like, in a Suzanne Collins type of situation where anything that you make gets made into a movie or a TV series right then and there, you kind of have to hope and pray that, whatever stories you release start to gain traction so that you can dive into those other aspects of the stories that you're trying to tell.
Yeah, definitely. Like, Suzanne Collins shows up every 5 years, drops an absolute banger, and then disappears again. It tries to do nothing at all.
Literally, yeah.
Let's get me to that point, guys. I won't forget you when I'm famous.
I could definitely see it. That would be great, honestly.
Thank you.
So, some very unrelated, but just very simple, fun questions to ask to end off this interview. If you could write for any franchise, what franchise would you want to write a story for?
It's funny because it's not a Marvel or a superhero one at all. It's actually MiHoYo or Hoyoverse. Like, I am such a huge Honkai Star Rail and Genshin fan that, like, I would love to write for them. And, like, Honkai Star Rail stories always stick out to me. It's a video game franchise, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I was not familiar, but that's interesting.
Yeah, Honkai Star Rail is a gacha game. All of the money I don't spend on my books, that's extra money I have, goes towards my gambling addiction. Someone said help. I would actually like to write for Honkai Star Rail specifically because I'm just so attached to the game, and it has stolen hours of my life and hundreds of dollars from my bank account, and I feel like it would be a good experience, except the only problem getting in my way is that you need to be speaking fluent in Mandarin, because they're a Chinese-based company, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, well...
Given the opportunity, I'd write for them, though. I also wouldn't mind writing for Marvel, though. I feel like I could finally give the movies, or the newer movies, some life again. I still need to see Thunderbolts, though.
Okay, so I guess to piggyback off of that, if you were to write for Marvel, is there a character that you would just like absolutely gush over writing for?
That's interesting because like the two characters I like have a lot of media already, but I would love to do more with them. My two favorite characters are Loki and Scarlet Witch. I feel like Scarlet Witch, though, does need a little bit more media because, like...
She does.
Multiverse of Madness was the last thing she was in, and it was like, oh, is she dead? Is she not? I do like Agatha, though, and I like the idea of exploring the Marvel witches. Like, if that would be my contribution to Marvel, would be, like, doing, like, stuff with the witches' covens and seeing, like, what the most powerful witches in their universe would look like under Scarlet Witch.
That sounds awesome. So, one last question, and then I'll let you go, Amanda. Also, thank you for jumping on here. This has been a blast.
No, thank you. I've had a great time.
Say you are either doing a panel or you're going out down the street and someone comes up to you and you're like, hey, I want to be a writer. What is the one piece of advice that you would give them?
To be honest, the only advice I could really give them is to never give up, because when I was younger, I actually really, really struggled with English as a subject because I don't know, I just really struggled with it. I couldn't really focus all that well in class, and all the rules really threw me off and made me not want to do it.
That's a lot of rules.
Every teacher I had up until late high school was like, no, you shouldn't do this. You have no idea how to write. So I spent literally years teaching myself the mechanics of writing, and then the nuances of creative writing, and then, you know, really just building it up and keeping going. And a lot of people in the creative world, well, people that are in the creative world talking to creatives, are going to tell creatives to give up. It happens all the time. So I don't care who in your life tells you to give up, just don't do it. Even if you do, like, the writing on the side and you do like a day job or whatever, don't give up on your passion. Just find a way to do it, because like even if it just makes you happy. I mean, Program 38 isn't the most successful book in the world. I'm not Suzanne Collins, but writing them and sharing them with the small group of people that do enjoy them really makes me happy. So don't give up is the best piece of advice I could give. And find good mentors. That's another one. They don't even have to be teachers in college. I find, and my friends laugh at this all the time, that the person who taught me the most about writing in college was my best friend. Not because he was like a writer by trade, he's actually a sports management major, but he taught me a lot about what it meant to, you know, be friends with people and like to socialize and to be human and just the importance of caring about people, and sometimes just understanding empathy is the best thing you could do as a writer. You don't even necessarily need to be the best writer, because I'm not. But as we've said all night, you could really feel my characters through the page because I have that going for me.
Yeah, I definitely love that last part, because that's something that a lot of people who I've taken like some classes from, they kind of mention, but they don't really emphasize. But some writers do emphasize, like, get to know people, interact with people, empathize with people, because that's how you make your characters real. And like you said, in your book, that is really well felt as you really dive into the story and get to know these characters. You really feel their anxieties, their frustrations, their backstory, and how they became who they are. So definitely a great job on that aspect of it. Like I said, I enjoyed the book. So as we start to wrap up, Amanda, can you tell the people where they can get Program 38 Sparks and where they can also find you, follow you, and get more of your work?
Okay, so the book itself is available currently on Amazon and Books A Million. You can get it on Kindle, paperback, or hardcover. So there's that. I have a merchandise store if you love the book. It's a threadless shop. It's Amanda-M-author shop. I also can be found on Threads, which is where I was found for this. It's at I'm sorry, I'm lying. It's at Amanda_M_author. Can you tell I've been working since 8 a.m.? It's it's showing so hard right now.
I definitely understand.
You could also find me on Instagram at Amanda_M_author, and you can find me on Blue Sky. I have a Facebook. I check all of them somewhat frequently, and I have an email. I also have a website that's also amanda-m-author.com. If you want to contact me for any reason, if you have any questions, if you want to tell me you love the book, if you want to tell me you hate the book directly, be my guest. I mean, it would break my heart, but I can't stop you either. So
no hate mail, please. No hate mail.
No hate. No hate. It's a great book. I promise. I think you'll love it.
I will second that, honestly. If my word means anything to any of you, definitely go get the book, read it, enjoy it, and let her know how much you enjoy it, because it's the little things like that that make someone's day.
It really helps us as writers to know that you like it. And even if you have constructive criticism, even if you're like Kelsey is a little too much of a self-insert character, it might hurt my soul a little bit, but I could reflect on it and I could use that. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me on any of my social medias. My messages are always open. And I just want to hear what people think of the book, or just say hi or ask me about Marvel. I'm around.
Nice. Thank you, Amanda, again for jumping on here. Again, this has been fun. Really enjoyed it. Everyone, all the links to Amanda's socials, to her website, all that stuff will be in the description below. The link to the book on Books A Million and on Amazon will be below as well. So definitely go buy it, go read it, and let her know what you think. Again, this has been the Divergent Comics YouTube channel. I'm Gary, and everyone, you all have a good rest of your week.